What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about some of the Hellblade controversies going on online. Now, I kind of wanted to wait until I beat it. I got 2 hours left. I imagine I'm going to beat it tonight. Tomorrow, I should have a full-on review, and I hope I can make it kind of long and detailed because I already have quite a few things I want to say about this game. So I kind of wanted to wait till then, but I thought, you know what? In terms of this length debate, right? That's what I primarily want to talk about in this video. Again, with the is it too short and all of the intricacies that come with it, that has really started to pop up over the last couple of days. It didn't help that reviews, obviously went live like an hour before the game came out. I criticized that, where it's like, yeah, I don't care about reviews. Honestly, like, I saw the score and I saw what people were saying kind of split, like it wasn't as good as I thought people were going to say it was. And I mean, that added a little intrigue to it. But ultimately, the reviews, like being so close to when the game came out, I was already, the game was downloaded. I was ready to play it, a few hours later. So I feel like that really messed with that, what I just said, but also with the length and any other controversy that would come out of the game itself, right? You have things like, well, the combat might actually be even more simplified. Now, I actually do have thoughts on that I do want to put in the review, but those kind of things that came out were not helped by the fact that it came out and then the game came out like an hour later, right? But specifically the length, I don't really think I need to have beaten it in order to talk about, at least for the purposes or, what I'm going to say. I don't like to see it. Now, here's what I'll honestly say, okay? Normally, what I would just kind of casually throw out there or do a blanket statement, I would do it to a large degree here as well. The amount of money you put into a game does not equate to hours. At least it doesn't for me. I'm fully understanding, although I don't agree with, and we've said this before, right? I don't agree with the people that say 1 hour is $1. So if you spend $70 on a game, you expect 70 hours. I will never say I believe that, because I don't. I absolutely do not. I respect it to the degree that I do, and I'm very aware that people actually believe that. And, for this channel, for what I want to do here, I want to be respectful of your opinion as long as you're respectful of mine. So if that's your thing, I get it to an extent that I'll respect you. I am not going to say that because I don't agree with it. For me, it's the quality. For me, it's always going to be quality over quantity. At the same time, there is one wrinkle that I do think you can say about this game that you can't always say about other games, and it's the length that it took them to make this game. That is the one time that I would say I would budge from my, my little corner here where I'm unwilling to move. I will say, if your argument is, well, Alex, it's 5 hours. There's a couple things to say about that. But then if you say, well, Alex, it's 5 hours and it took them 7 years. It's been 7 years since the first game. That is a little bit more alarming to me. In fact, that I would say just kind of throws people or throws companies or throws publishers, whatever. It throws things under the bus yet again in terms of how we make these games, right? We talk about it all the time. You see it on Twitter. You see it on YouTube all the time. Games take too long and they cost too much money. I think everybody's waking up to this. I think publishers are very aware. I think you're seeing the multi-platform thing because of it. There's other reasons as well, but I think a big thing when you see Square Enix doing it, I think one part of it, not all of it, but one part of it is these games take too long and it costs too much money. We need to put it out so that every living being on planet Earth has a chance to play our game. It's not good enough for just one platform or this or that to have a game, okay? I think that's a lot to it because I think publishers are aware, even though they can't really fix the problem. As of right now, the problem is not fixed. Games, for whatever goddamn reason, are still taking 5, 6, 7 years to be made. And until that changes, you're not going to ever be able to completely reinvent the wheel. Like, that really is the thing that needs to change, okay? So, cutting through all of this, ranting that I'm doing, I would say a couple of things. I do not think that the 5 hours, 5.5, whatever it might be, depending on which walkthrough you're looking at. Now, I tried to match my playthrough to other people's playthrough. So I played this game, I believe I played this game for 3 hours and 22 minutes so far. I watched a walkthrough to try to match, and for where I am, it's 3 hours and 15 in the walkthrough, and I think it's about 5 hours and 20 minutes. So I have roughly 2 hours left. I've played about 3 hours and 15 minutes at kind of like a casual pace. So I feel like I'm going to line up with the average. I think the average might be maybe a little bit higher on how long to beat. I think it's maybe closer to 6 hours, but regardless, 5, 6, 7 hours. For me, it doesn't matter the length. It matters the quality. Now, I have things to say about the quality that I'll say in tomorrow's review. But the basic idea that, oh my God, Hellblade 2 is a complete disaster. It's only 5 hours long. I really don't agree with that. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I really don't agree. It's about the quality. It's not about the length. People focus far too hard, at least in my opinion, or far too much on the length. But at the same time, again, I'm willing to budge a little and say, for them to have made this, here's the thing. They announced another game, right, back in 2020, I believe. Their team is not gigantic. So, were they split up? How long did it actually take to make this game? Now, I guess you could technically say, well, Alex, it took them 7 years. It's been 7 years, so it took them 7 years. Was it with the full team? Did it go into full production, or just production in general, let's say? Did it do that right away, or did it take a while? Were they prototyping maybe something else? We don't know all of the behind-the-scenes stuff. I will say 7 years to make 5 hours is not okay. It's not necessarily, I would say, a slight against Ninja Theory. I'm not attacking their practices. I'm not attacking the game. I do like this game more than I don't like this game, by the way, in case people are interested right now instead of tomorrow. But I will say, I said maybe the practice. Maybe I would go after the practice. Not necessarily like these are evil people for, doing it this way, but the idea that it takes so long to make something like this. If your angle is that kind of infuriates you, honestly, I kind of get it. I gotta be real. I kind of get it. You're seeing games take 5, 6, 7 years that take, that in the game, you could spend 50, 60, 70 hours, right? So you can maybe say, okay, for every 10 hours of game content is about a year development. It's not like that, okay, literally at all, but let's just kind of equate it, right? So you have a game, that's 70 hours long, $70 as well, but it takes 7 years to make. Okay, I think it's easier to digest from the majority of the internet. Now, there's always going to be controversies. People are always going to say something. But, if a game takes 6, 7 years and you got almost 100 hours in that game, you can at least rationalize it, at least online, and say, oh, okay, I can see how this happened. For Hellblade, it's harder. Now, I would argue that some of the technology and some of the audio, the visuals, maybe some of that stuff just flat out took a long time, and I would believe that. But I think the hours, because it's this easy to digest number that you see people throwing out there, right? Oh, it took me 4.5 hours. Oh, it took me 6 hours. It's such an easy number to throw out. It's eye-grabbing, right? So you don't maybe necessarily care about, well, what did they, was it the visuals that took them 3 years to put together and the rest of the game took the other 4, right? But when you have a game that's only 5 hours long, you think, oh my God, how, that's less hours than it is years. So at that point, it's a year an hour. And I don't even know how you can rationalize that. And I would say that is where I would budge and say it has to change. It has to change. I'm not actually saying at all that we need to get rid of 5-hour games. No. In fact, I want to keep them. I don't think every game needs to be 5. To be honest, when I say not every game needs to be 100 hours, it's the same thing the other way around. I don't need every game to be 5 hours long. I don't need every studio to make a game that's 5 hours long. I want them here and there, just like I want my 100-hour, my Personas, my Horizons, my whatever. I'll take those here and there, just like I'll take the 5-hour games here and there. But there does have to be, I think, some maneuvering of how long it's, just in the same way that you've got to figure out a way to make 70-hour-long games take less time. Now, maybe a concession is they're not 70 hours anymore. Maybe not, right? But you got to figure that out. At the same time, I think it is fair to say, okay, well, what about the other side of things? You can't be taking more than half a decade, almost a full decade, right? 7 years, almost a full decade to make a 5-hour experience. It is the same thing. If you got to figure out how to make a 50-hour game in less time, which they absolutely do, across the world, developers have to figure that out. You've also got to figure out how to make a 5-hour game in less time as well. And I would say, I think that is absolutely valid. So this is maybe one of the rare times in a controversy that I agree with part of it. I definitely don't agree with the whole thing. I think a lot of people that I'm seeing, at least on Twitter, a lot of the console warrior stuff, right, is very much focusing on the 5 hours, talking about that's unacceptable and this game needs to be longer, things too much focused on that. I don't agree. The game needs to be as long as the game is. To be honest with you, I actually could say almost the opposite. We'll probably talk about this in the review. There's already a section, again, I'm almost 3.5 hours in. there's probably an hour-long section that could have been cut in half. In fact, I think the game could have been shorter, and the quality would actually be better because of it. That's kind of wild to say out loud, but I'm very confident. I'm very just willing to say it, right? So I actually would very much disagree, and I would actually go completely on the anti-side of things. The game might, by the end of it, the game might actually be too long, weirdly enough, but we'll see. Like, I haven't seen the last third of the game. But again, for me, it's about the quality. It's not about how many hours. It's about how good are the hours that you're given. So that part I disagree, and that part I generally disagree every time. But in terms of the just like, they can't believe it, people not being able to believe it took them this long to make a game that's this short, I can understand that frustration, and I do think as an industry, you got to change it. Just like you got to change the big games, you got to change the small games as well. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.